My secret recipe? Cooking without a recipe. So with a few friends coming over for dinner, I've got a couple of dishes in mind. A simple to prepare but always special rice, risotto, and a dessert that's as much fun to eat as it is to make. A meringue tart that you can flavor and finish any way you like to. And it all begins with the elegantly simple, eminently flexible egg white. Because with just a little bit of sugar, you can whip one of these into a perfect little tart shell. Making meringue is one of those techniques that after you do it once, it's yours forever. It really will open up a world of dessert possibilities for you. And it's not just for when company's coming. It can be a simple weekday treat too. Since the key to making a meringue is to whip as much air as possible into your egg whites, it's important to make sure that there's not even a tiny little bit of oil or fat in the bowl, because the slightest little bit will prevent that whipping from happening. Now there's an easy way to take a seemingly clean bowl and really buff it up. All you need is something acidic. Just a little tiny splash of vinegar will get the job done. And don't use a kitchen towel either. You never know. There might be a slight little bit of oil or fat in that kitchen towel. This may seem a little bit extreme, but trust me, it's really an important step. In fact, way back when I was in cooking school, we used to have a lot of fun putting a tiny drop of oil in each other's meringues. That's no way to get ahead, though, in cooking school. Now here's a fail-safe way to separate egg whites. There's going to be 4 of us tonight. Usually 1 egg white per person is perfect. There's 1. When I have to separate more than 1 egg, I like to do them one at a time. And that way, if I blow 1 egg yolk, I don't muck up all the egg whites. Egg whites are loaded with protein. And once that protein whips up, it forms a matrix of sorts, which is really just a fancy way of saying it forms a foam. And there's a few ways you can stabilize that foam. Baking it, for instance, locks it up solid. Adding sugar helps, and so does a pinch of tartaric acid, cream of tartar. You can find this in every supermarket, and it really does help stabilize egg whites. This is the pastry chef's secret. They start to foam almost immediately. I actually love doing this with Gabe because it's amazing how those little thin egg whites down on the bottom of this bowl can poof up into so much meringue. And when the meringue hits the soft peak stage, when it starts to look like whipped cream, then you can start to add the sugar. 1/4 cup of sugar for each egg white. Now would be a good time to add a splash of my favorite pastry flavor, too. As much vanilla as you're into. And that's what you're looking for, a stable protein matrix. But it's really just some egg whites, some sugar, some vanilla, and cream of tartar in a bowl. And here's how to get it in the oven. With a simple freezer bag. This is just a piping bag waiting to happen, and you don't need some kind of fancy tip either. Here's how to pipe a tart shell. Start in the center and just make a bit of a spiral like that. And once it's the diameter that you like, then come up a layer and make some sides. And what you're left with is a nice big hole in the middle, because that's where the filling's going to go. At 275 degrees, the outside will cook so quickly that the inside will stay nice and marshmallowy. That sounds good to me. It might sound sappy, but sharing dinner with friends really makes my day. Getting together around the table is fun, and it's even more fun when the food isn't complicated. Like a pan full of beautiful little meringue tart shells, they're actually nothing but egg whites, sugar, vanilla, and a pinch of cream of tartar, but the transformation that happens when you whip and bake them is magical. To say nothing of what happens after they're done baking when you get to come up with something to fill them. Here's something I do all the time. Take a chicken breast and wrap it in prosciutto. You can even use regular ham, then bake it off. It's a great way to add some quick and easy flavor to a plain chicken breast. But since I have guests coming over tonight, I think I'll make a pesto first, stuff the chicken breast, and then wrap it with the prosciutto. Here's how to make your own bright pesto. I always use roughly equal parts of the ingredients: pine nuts, basil, and Parmesan. And it's perfectly okay to throw the entire basil plant right in, stems and all. There's lots of flavor in those stems. I'll also use some of my very best extra virgin olive oil. Prosciutto is a salt-cured, air-dried ham that's traditionally made in the exact same part of Italy where Grana Padano cheese is made. It's got a wonderful, salty, briny flavor to it. It's a real treat. Now here's how to cut a pocket to stuff the pesto into. Just make a slit down one side of the chicken breast. Almost all the way through. Just like that. Then spoon in as much pesto as you can. And be careful not to actually touch the chicken with your spoon so you don't contaminate the leftovers. Okay, here's how to roll all this flavor up. This part's really simple too. Push the pesto deep into the pocket, then close it back up and start rolling. And roll it as tightly as you possibly can. And then set it in your baking pan with the seam side of the prosciutto slices facing down. These are ready to go in the oven now, but the meringue shells aren't ready to come out yet, so I'll bake these off later. Meanwhile, I'll make a filling to put in the meringue shells. I'm thinking fruit. And you can turn these into a simple fruit filling with marmalade, but not just any marmalade, homemade kumquat marmalade. Marmalades are a member of the fruit preserve family. Sweet condiments made by simply boiling fruit and sugar to a semi-liquid consistency.